Stay here by the service entrance tonight. Victoria prefers to handle the introductions herself.
My mother told me to stand behind the laundry cart during my sister's boutique opening, because the investors needed to see Vanessa as the owner, not me. I was 36 years old, wearing a black service dress with flower on one sleeve and a brass room key in my hand, when she leaned close enough for her perfume to sting my throat and whispered, "Rachel, do not make today about yourself. Your sister needs to shine." Needs. That word had followed me my whole life like a bell tied around my neck. Vanessa needed confidence. Vanessa needed support. Vanessa needed one beautiful thing that belonged only to her. And somehow, every time Vanessa needed something, I was the one expected to build it, polish it, carry it, and disappear before anyone noticed my fingerprints. Across the front hall of Lark and Lantern Inn, my sister stood beneath the old crystal chandelier as if the light had been made for her. Her cream dress floated around her knees. Her hair fell in soft waves. She laughed with local reporters, shook hands with business owners, and accepted compliments for the carved oak desk, the lake-facing reading room, the breakfast menu, the linen curtains, the guest welcome cards, and the warm cinnamon smell drifting from the kitchen. Every compliment landed on her. Every detail had come from me. I had found the property when it was still a tired old lakeside house with cracked shutters and a furnace that coughed like an old man. I had negotiated the lease. I had argued with the contractor about the west staircase. I had chosen the mattresses, tested the towels, designed the check-in flow, trained the staff, written the emergency procedures, and created the breakfast menu that Vanessa was now calling her personal expression of comfort. My father stood beside her with one hand resting proudly on her shoulder. "Vanessa always had the eye," he told a man in a navy suit. "Rachel helped with the practical things." The practical things. I looked down at the brass key in my palm until its sharp edge pressed a half-moon into my skin. The practical things were the reason the doors had opened that morning. The practical things were the reason the fire inspection passed. The practical things were the reason there were fresh flowers in 12 rooms, warm cider at the desk, folded robes in the linen closet, and staff who knew not to panic when a guest asked for something not written on a list. But in my family, Vanessa received language. I received labor. It had always been that way. When we were children, I baked the cake, and Vanessa carried it into the dining room. My mother called her graceful. When we were teenagers, I organized my father's retirement party, and Vanessa chose the blue napkins. My father thanked her for bringing the family together. When we became adults, the pattern did not end. It simply got better lighting and more expensive consequences. 2 years earlier, Vanessa arrived at my apartment after a breakup, crying into a scarf that cost more than my monthly groceries. She said she wanted to open a boutique inn, somewhere gentle, somewhere elegant, somewhere that would prove she was more than someone's pretty daughter. She had no business plan. No hotel experience. No budget that made sense. What she had was a mood board, a trembling voice, and parents who looked straight at me and said, "You know how these things work. Help your sister." I should have said no. Instead, I gave her 2 years of my life. That morning, as guests filled the inn, I moved quietly through the hallways, fixing what no one else saw. A young receptionist was close to tears because the booking system froze. I reset it. The tea urn in the sunroom ran low. I refilled it. A delivery of white tulips arrived crushed on one side. I turned the vases toward the wall and made them look intentional. Then Adrian Cole walked in. The room changed around him. Not loudly. Not suddenly. But every person with money, ambition, or fear seemed to straighten at once. I recognized him from Vanessa's nervous whispers. The hotel investor. The man my parents believed could turn Lark and Lantern from a pretty local inn into a name people drove hours to experience. Vanessa glided toward him before anyone else could breathe. "Mr. Cole," she said warmly, "welcome to my little dream." My little dream. I almost laughed. Adrian accepted her hand, but his eyes did not stay on her face. They moved over the room carefully. The desk. The sight lines. The luggage path. The breakfast table. The staff positions. The lake-facing chairs angled toward the morning light. He was not admiring. He was reading. For the first time all day, a strange quiet opened inside me. Then he picked up one of the rosemary apple biscuits from the welcome tray, tasted it, and looked past Vanessa. Straight at me. "Who designed the guest experience here?" he asked. My mother answered before I could move. "Vanessa, of course," she said with a bright laugh. "Rachel is wonderful with the behind-the-scenes work." Adrian did not smile. He looked at the biscuit in his hand, then at the welcome cards, then at me again. "Behind the scenes," he said slowly, "is usually where the building stands or falls." That sentence did not crash into the room. It slipped in quietly. But I felt it move through every person standing near the welcome table. My mother's smile stiffened. My father cleared his throat. Vanessa tilted her head, still beautiful, still polished, but something sharp flashed behind her eyes. She had heard what Adrian Cole had really said. So had I. Behind the scenes was where the building stood or fell. For 2 years, I had been the woman behind the scenes. The one opening the doors before sunrise. The one standing in the dust with contractors while Vanessa sent pictures of antique mirrors and asked if the inn could feel more poetic. The one sitting at my kitchen table after midnight, comparing linen costs, breakfast margins, heating estimates, staff schedules, guest turnover times, and whether 12 rooms could survive winter occupancy without bleeding money. Vanessa called it details. My parents called it helping. I called it breathing life into a house that had almost died. When I first found the property, it was not the graceful lakeside and people were photographing that morning. It was a tired old place with peeling white paint, warped porch boards, and windows that rattled whenever the wind came over the water. The garden was mostly weeds. The kitchen smelled of damp wood and old grease. The upstairs hall had wallpaper curling at the corners like it was trying to leave before we did. Vanessa had walked through the front door, pressed both hands to her chest, and whispered, "It has a soul." I had walked behind her with a notebook and written, "Roof leak, bad wiring, uneven stairs, no proper laundry flow, weak water pressure, impossible storage." That was the difference between us. She saw a dream. I saw what it would cost to keep the dream from collapsing on paying guests. Still, I built it. I sat across from a landlord who thought 2 Bennett sisters would be easy to charm and made him lower the first-year lease. I pushed the contractor to fix the west staircase after he claimed guests would not notice a slight tilt. I noticed. Elderly guests notice. Women carrying luggage notice. People with tired knees notice. I designed the hallway lighting so no one would wake at night and feel lost. I tested mattresses by lying on them for 10 minutes each because comfort is not a word on a brochure. It is what a body feels at 2 in the morning when the world is quiet and old grief comes looking. That was something Vanessa never understood. She liked the look of hospitality. I understood the weight of it. There was one person who saw more than she said. Nora Pike, 64 years old, had worked in that house back when it was still called Briar Lake Lodge. Vanessa wanted to replace her at first. "She does not fit the image," Vanessa whispered. Nora had silver hair, white hands, sensible shoes, and the kind of eyes that had watched rich people call hard work invisible for too many years. I kept her. I told Vanessa we needed someone who knew the bones of the house. The truth was simpler. I needed one person in that building who could tell when something was real. Nora knew which radiator knocked in room 7. She knew which window swelled after rain. She knew how to fold a top sheet so it looked expensive without wasting a minute. More than once, she found me alone in the service pantry, staring at invoices with a headache burning behind my eyes. "You built the spine of this place, Miss Rachel," she told me one evening. I had laughed because if I did not laugh, I might have cried. On opening week, everything tried to fall apart. The booking software froze. The supplier sent half the towels in the wrong size. The fire inspector wanted clearer exit signage near the back stairs. Vanessa disappeared for a dress fitting because, as my mother said, photographs matter on a day like this. So I fixed it. I called the software company and stayed on hold until my ear ached. I borrowed towels from a nearby inn and paid the owner in future referrals. I drove to a hardware store at dusk, bought brass signs, and mounted them myself while Vanessa was trying on pearl earrings. By the night before opening, my hands were raw, my back was stiff, and my eyes felt full of sand. But Larkin Lantern Inn was ready. Not because Vanessa dreamed it. Because I refused to let it fail. Now, in the bright front hall, Adrian Cole turned from the welcome tray toward the reception desk. He asked Vanessa about winter occupancy. She smiled. "We believe people will come for the feeling," she said. Adrian nodded once. "What is your break-even occupancy in January?" The question was simple. The silence was not. Vanessa's fingers tightened around her glass. My father stepped forward too quickly. "We have people handling those figures." Adrian's eyes moved to me. And for the first time I realized he already knew. Adrian Cole did not raise his voice. That made it worse. Loud men can be dismissed as rude. Quiet men with money, discipline, and a clear eye are much harder to wave away. He stood beside the carved oak reception desk, holding one of my welcome cards between two fingers, and waited for someone to answer his question. "What is your break-even occupancy in January?" Vanessa's smile trembled, then returned too quickly, like a curtain pulled across a cracked window. "We are focusing on experience first," she said. "Numbers follow when the experience is strong." My mother made a soft approving sound, the kind she used whenever Vanessa said something empty with enough elegance to pass for wisdom. My father nodded as if she had just quoted scripture. Adrian looked at her for one long second. Then he turned to me. "Rachel, isn't it?" My name, spoken plainly in that room, startled me more than it should have. All morning I had been sweetheart, helper. Back of house, practical, the one who knows where things are. My own name sounded almost too formal for the role my family had assigned me. "Yes," I said. "Do you know the January number?" My mother's eyes snapped toward me. A warning. My father's jaw tightened. Vanessa's fingers went white around her glass. I knew what they wanted. They wanted me to soften. To smile. To say Vanessa had the answer somewhere. To step backward into the old family fog where truth became attitude and theft became misunderstanding. I looked at Adrian. 43% occupancy, I said. 46 if heating costs rise again. But we can hold at 41 if we push midweek rider retreats and keep breakfast service fixed instead of open buffet. The air changed. Not dramatically. No one gasped. No glass shattered. But the room leaned. People always lean toward competence, even when they have been told not to see it. Adrian's expression sharpened. Why fixed breakfast? Because 12 rooms cannot justify buffet waste in low season, I said. It looks generous in photographs and reckless in accounting. Set service lets us control portions, reduce labor, and make each guest feel personally served. Nora, standing near the hallway with a stack of folded napkins, lowered her eyes. I knew that look. She was trying not to smile. Vanessa laughed lightly. Rachel is very good with those little operational pieces, she said. I focus more on the emotional identity of the inn. Little pieces. I felt the words land in my chest, not like a knife, but like a familiar hand pressing me back into a chair I had outgrown. Adrian picked up a rosemary apple biscuit, broke it open, and studied the crumb. Who created this? Vanessa opened her mouth. I did, I said. At the same time, she said, we did. For a moment, our voices hung together in the warm cinnamon air. Mine steady. Hers polished. My mother stepped in quickly. The girls worked together, of course. Vanessa had the vision, and Rachel helped bring it into shape. Adrian did not look at my mother. He looked at me. Why rosemary with apple? The answer came before fear could stop it. Because apple alone can feel too sweet and nostalgic. Rosemary gives it earth. It keeps the flavor grown up. This inn is not supposed to feel like a dollhouse. It is supposed to feel like a place where tired adults can breathe again. This time Adrian almost smiled. Almost. Behind him, one of the reporters from the county lifestyle magazine had stopped pretending to read her notes. A local banker lowered his cup. Even my father noticed the shift, and panic made him louder. Rachel has always been dramatic about details, he said. Useful, yes, but emotional. I turned toward him. For years, that word had been his broom. Emotional. He used it to sweep away anger, exhaustion, memory, proof. If I cried, I was emotional. If I objected, I was emotional. If I named what everyone was doing, I was emotional. But I was not emotional now. I was exact. Adrian placed the biscuit back on the tray. Let me ask this differently, he said. If Rachel walked out of this inn right now, who could run tonight's service? The room went still. Vanessa looked at the reception desk, as if an answer might be written in the polished wood. My mother touched the pearls at her throat. My father stared at Adrian with the offended face of a man who had mistaken control for respect. No one spoke. Nora lifted her chin then. Just slightly. Enough for me to see. Enough for me to understand I was not crazy. Adrian turned fully toward me. Is there an office where we can talk privately? Vanessa stepped forward. Anything you need to ask can be asked with me here. This is my inn. My inn. 2 small words. So clean. So false. Before I could answer, my mother caught my wrist. Her fingers were cold. Rachel, she whispered, do not embarrass your sister. Something inside me, something old and tired and obedient, looked at that hand and finally let go. I pulled my wrist free. No, I said. My voice was not loud, but it reached the corners. This is not embarrassment. This is my work. For one heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Adrian stepped aside, opening the path toward the little office behind the front desk. And I walked past my family without asking permission. The office behind the front desk was barely large enough for 2 chairs, 1 filing cabinet, and the narrow desk I had assembled myself 3 nights before the fire inspection. It smelled faintly of printer ink, old wood, and the lavender polish Nora used on the shelves. Through the half-closed door, I could still hear the soft murmur of guests pretending not to listen. Adrian did not sit at first. He looked around the room the way he had looked around the inn, not admiring, measuring. How much of this place is yours? He asked. The question was simple. The answer was humiliating. I folded my hands so he would not see them tremble. In work? I said. Almost all of it. Then I looked at the desk. On paper? None. For the first time since he had walked through the door, Adrian's face changed. Not into pity. I would have hated pity. It changed into something colder, sharper. Disappointment, perhaps. Not in me. In the waste of me. Your sister owns the business? Yes. And you? I was told things would be made fair after the inn became successful. The words sounded smaller outside my own head. Softer. More foolish. Families are dangerous that way. They can dress exploitation in warm language until even the person being used feels ungrateful for noticing the rope. Adrian pulled out the chair and sat. Then let us be clear, he said. I am going to ask you questions. Answer quickly. I nodded. Break-even occupancy in January? 43%. 46 if heating rises. 41 if we package midweek retreats. Most fragile operating cost? Laundry and heat. The house is charming, but charm leaks through old windows. Weakest staff position? Evening front desk. Paula is kind, but she freezes when two problems happen at once. Best margin breakfast item? Rosemary apple biscuits and black tea service. Worst is the smoked trout plate unless we raise the price or cut garnish waste. Biggest risk in the first 60 days? Vanessa promising personalized experiences we do not have labor to deliver. That last answer made Adrian lean back. Does she know that? No. Does she know the linen replacement cycle? No. The winter cancellation policy? No. The emergency vendor list? No. Then why, he asked quietly, is she standing in the front hall calling this her in? The question struck deeper than I expected, because part of the answer belonged to me. I had protected the lie. I had carried it carefully, like a tray of full glasses, afraid one sharp movement would spill family disappointment everywhere. Because my family is used to me making things work quietly, I said. The office door opened before Adrian could respond. My father stepped in first, his face red beneath his polished smile. Vanessa stood behind him, no longer glowing. My mother hovered near the doorway with wet eyes already prepared, as if tears were evidence. This has gone far enough, Howard said. Rachel, you are turning a family celebration into a scene. I stood slowly. No, I said. I am turning a family habit into a sentence. Vanessa gave a short laugh. Listen to yourself. You sound bitter. Bitter. Another family word. A word used for women who finally stop sweetening the truth. Adrian remained seated, calm as stone. Miss Bennett, he said to Vanessa, what is your average cost per occupied room? Vanessa blinked. That is not the kind of detail a founder needs to carry personally, she said. Adrian looked at her without expression. It is if the founder wants my money. The silence that followed was clean and brutal. My mother stepped forward. Rachel has always been very hands-on. Vanessa is better with people. That balance works for us. Us. I almost smiled. There it was, the soft family plural, the little word that turned my labor into a shared resource and Vanessa's praise into private property. I reached down beside the desk and lifted the blue operations binder from my tote bag. Vanessa's face changed the moment she saw it. Inside were the vendor contracts, staffing grids, guest recovery scripts, breakfast cost sheets, room turnover timing, seasonal pricing plans, maintenance schedules, and the first floor redesign I had drawn at my kitchen table 16 months earlier. My initials sat in the lower corner of every page. My father's voice dropped. That belongs to the business. I looked at him. I made it. Adrian held out his hand. I gave him the binder. He turned page after page. No one spoke. Each sheet made the room smaller for my family. Each note made their story harder to breathe inside. Then Nora appeared in the doorway. She held a stack of white towels against her chest, but her eyes were on me. Mr. Cole, she said gently, I worked in this house for 20 years before the Bennetts came. The one who saved it is Miss Rachel. My mother whispered, Nora, please. But please had arrived too late. Adrian closed the binder. I will not invest in a structure where the person standing in front does not know what she is standing on, he said. Vanessa's mouth opened. Adrian continued. And I will not put money into a family arrangement that hides the operator and decorates the figurehead. My father stiffened. That is insulting. No, Adrian said, standing at last. It is expensive. He took a card from his coat and handed it to me. If you ever decide to build something with your own name on the door, call me. Vanessa stepped forward, her voice cracking through the polish. She was supposed to stay behind the desk. The words shot out before she could catch them. Through the open doorway, the front hall went silent. And for the first time that day, my sister had told the truth. By morning, Lark and Lantern Inn had already become a story. Not a loud scandal. Not the kind with screaming headlines and cruel photographs. Something quieter. Cleaner. More dangerous. The county lifestyle reporter wrote about the beautiful lakeside opening, the warm service, the rosemary apple biscuits, the intelligent room flow, the calm behind the guest experience. Then, halfway through the article, she wrote one sentence my mother would never forgive. Several guests noted that the most impressive parts of the inn appeared to come from a woman introduced only as a back-of-house helper. A helper. I read that line 3 times at my kitchen table while the sun crawled across the floorboards. For most of my life, that word would have broken me. That morning, it felt like a door opening. My phone had 27 messages before breakfast. My mother sent long paragraphs about family, kindness, timing, and how public embarrassment left marks that could not be erased. My father left one short message. "You have no idea what you have done." Vanessa called until the screen went dark, then sent a single line. "You ruined the only thing that was mine." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I typed back, "No. I stopped pretending it was only yours." My finger hovered before I sent it. The old Rachel would have softened the sentence. She would have added, "I am sorry you are upset." She would have tried to rescue everyone from the truth so no one had to feel the full weight of it. I sent it exactly as it was. By noon, Nora called. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tremble beneath it. "Miss Rachel, if you leave that place, I leave too." I closed my eyes. "You do not have to do that for me," I said. "No," she answered. "I am doing it for what is right." Those words sat with me all afternoon. At 4, Adrian Cole called. He did not dress the conversation in pity. "I am still interested," he said. "In Lark and Lantern?" I asked. "No. In you." The room around me seemed to go very still. "I do not own an inn," I said. "No," he replied. "But you know how to build one. Send me a concept with your name on the first page." My name. It sounded simple. Almost too simple. But for a woman who had spent years handing her work to other people like an offering, putting my own name on the first page felt like lifting a stone from my chest. 2 nights later, my mother came to my apartment. She stood in the hallway wearing a soft gray coat, holding a box of pastries from an expensive bakery, as if sugar could cover rot. Her eyes were red. I believed the tears were real. My mother had always cried sincerely. She simply cried after taking what she wanted. "Rachel, can I come in?" she asked. I looked at the box, then at her. "No." Her face folded. "I am your mother." "I know," I said. "That is why this hurts." She pressed one hand to her chest. I was trying to keep peace. There it was. The sentence families use when one person is sacrificed so everyone else can sit comfortably at the table. That was not peace, I said. That was keeping Vanessa in the light and me in the service hallway. She whispered my name like a warning. But warnings only work when you still want permission. I stepped back and closed the door. On Friday, I sent Adrian the proposal. 12 rooms. Quiet luxury. Mature guests. Strong winter retreats. Fixed breakfast service. Thoughtful accessibility. Clean margins. No borrowed glamour. No family fog. On the first page, in plain black letters, I wrote founder and operator, Rachel Bennett. I cried when I saw it. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just one slow tear, then another, as if my body had finally found a place to set down 20 years of being useful and unseen. 1 year later, Bennett House opened in a smaller town across the lake. It was not as grand as Lark and Lantern. It was better. Warmer. Truer. Nora stood at the front desk in a navy cardigan, smiling like Justice had finally learned how to fold towels. Adrian came near sunset, walked through the hall, tasted the rosemary apple biscuit, and said, "This place knows who built it." As for Vanessa, Lark and Lantern stayed pretty for a while. Pretty things often survive longer than they deserve. But service slipped. Reviews cooled. Staff left. My father blamed the economy. My mother blamed gossip. Vanessa blamed me. I did not answer. I was busy welcoming guests into a house no one had forced me to disappear from. And if my family taught me anything, it was this: sometimes healing is not the moment they finally admit what they did. Sometimes healing is the moment you stop waiting in the back hallway for people who only loved your labor when it was silent. If someone has ever taken credit for your work, or pushed you into the background while they stood in your light, tell me in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to Still Waters Payback, and share your story, because your name deserves to be spoken where your work is standing.